So today I have a different type of video. I came back from break and my desk and everything was just absolutely nasty. So I decided I was gonna, do a whole setup deep clean and I was gonna record it. So first thing I did was take the keyboards off the desk. As you can see, it looks absolutely nasty. And what I was gonna do is clean the keyboards. As you can see, I'm taking off all the keycaps here and I'm putting them into a Tupperware thing so I can wash them later. But I'm also taking off the keycaps so I can clean underneath them. As you can see, it's fucking disgusting underneath there. As you can see, there's just a ton of hair and whatnot in there. And I also have a second keyboard, if you notice, so I'm gonna take this off. And this is a plateless hot swap build. So as you can see, there is no plate, and I'm taking out the switches themselves with it so I can clean those off too. So once I have all that done, I'm left with this absolute mess. As you can see, it's all dusty. This one is just absolutely nasty. I haven't cleaned this one that often because cleaning this I have to take a lot of care and I have to do a lot more work. So yeah, if you just look there, you can see the dust forming all around where the switches were and all of that. Here's the pictures of the PCB, but before we get to that, we're gonna have to separate all the switches from the keycaps so we can clean the keycaps off and clean off the pins on the switches. As you can see, I'm just kind of separating them and putting them into this Tupperware container, and I'm putting the switches all into a pile. If you'll notice, my hands are really shaky because I just drank a ton of coffee and I'm very underweight and I also didn't eat anything. So yeah, looks like I have little hand tremors, but I'm just gonna speed this footage up. I want to take this time to say, if you have not already, make sure you join the Discord. First 20 verified members get a special role that gives them access to mod chats and all that. But even if you don't want that, just stop by, say hi, say what's up. I'm trying to build a sense of community because my channel is very small, but I'm trying to grow it, and I'll get a little bit more consistent with my content when the next Modern Warfare game comes out, because I've just been kind of tired of Apex recently. And now we are done separating the keycaps and the switches. I'm going to take all these keycaps, put them in the Tupperware container. I kind of got tired of moving my arm all the way to it every single time, so I just kind of put them in a pile right next to the camera and decided to do it all at the end. Taking handfuls of those, and something that I didn't mention yet is that all the dust and dirt and all that on the keyboard, since it's a plateless build, that kind of implies that there's going to be something behind in the case, so I decided to unscrew the PCB and get to work on cleaning out the case. You can't really see much here while I'm unscrewing, so I'm just going to speed up the footage. And now that all the screws are gone, I could just take the PCB right out of the case, grabbing it by the stabilizers. My suspicions were obviously confirmed. As you can see, the case is just nasty, and the PCB, surprisingly, no dirt on the back. The back is clean as a whistle. All the connections for the stabilizers look good. Everything looks fine on the back. This is the result of my first time dusting off the PCB, just kind of getting off the big stuff, but as you can see, I didn't really get the corners. I dusted it with a microfiber cloth, making sure to be very careful with it. Here it is after the second wipe down. As you can see, it is completely dust free and debris free except for right around the stabilizers. You might be thinking, hey, why don't you wipe off those oily bits? But the problem is that that is oil that has damaged the PCB. Basically, the oil from food gets onto the PCB, mixes with the plastic, and damages it, leaving that part permanent. So it's always going to be shiny like that. There's no way to get rid of that. So here I'm checking the switch connections to make sure that there was no dirt or anything that got in between any of them that'll mess up a connection, make switches not work that well. To check them, I'm just holding them up to a light, seeing if I could see through them. If I can't, then that means that there's dirt blocking my vision, and I could just blow through it or push a pin through it and then blow through it to try and make sure that dirt doesn't stay there. Looking back at the case, you can just see how nasty it is, so I'm going to give that a wipe down. So after getting all the big stuff out, I'm just using a little wet toilet paper thing so I can go around all the crevices of the case and make sure that there's no dirt left in it. Now, as you can see, the interior of the case is pretty clean. I mean, it's not perfect, but there's not really a way to get it that perfect, and it's going to be perfectly fine. I'm not really going to see it that much. And you might be looking at like the outside edges and whatnot and be like, it doesn't look that clean. That's why I'm saying the interior. The outside, and especially the back right here, absolutely nasty. We're going to get to that next. My plan here is just go at it with a wet cloth, get all the big dirt out, and then just make sure I, scrub it really deep. And I'm just going to speed this up. And this is the finished result for the case. I think it came out really clean. I think I did pretty well. I don't think I'm going to have to clean it for a while more. And right here, I'm putting the PCB right back into the case. This is definitely the most risky moment because of how shaky my hands are. I need to get the PCB back into a metal case without damaging the PCB. And if I drop one of the screws, then that's missing forever and I don't have many spares. Also, if I strip one of the screw holes, then that is a big problem because this is a $100 case and I will have to buy a new one if I can't mount the PCB in correctly anymore. The PCB was mounted successfully, and then I had to check if every switch was clean or not. As you can see, this one is clean, so I'm just gonna go put it in the PCB and press it in. Here's an example of an unclean switch. As you can see, there's black residue on that silver pin and a little bit on that orange pin. I have to get rid of that, make sure there's good connections on every single one. It takes about 2 minutes to clean each and every one. Here's the before and after of the first keyboard. I think it turned out pretty well so far, even though there's not keycaps yet. The second keyboard, all the switches were soldered and it already had a plate, so I didn't really see a point in cleaning out the case. So I just left it in and just bumped out all the crumbs, and as you can see, this is the before and after. So for the keycaps, I have a specific way of washing them that I really like to do. I only really have to do this like once a year. These keycaps aren't even that dirty. It's just mainly what was underneath them, but I'm still cleaning them anyways. So the first thing we're doing here is filling up the Tupperware container with some water, trying to make sure all these keycaps get submerged. Once that's done, I'm gonna put probably like 5 or 10 squeezes of hand soap into it and just let it sink, and then I'm gonna start mixing it. When mixing it, you can just use like a claw formation, just squeeze or just do whatever. Just basically move your hand around there and the keycaps will do the work for you. They'll kind of just rinse themselves. So I'm gonna drain it of water, then as you can see right here, I'm refilling it, and there's a lot of bubbles and a lot of soap residue still on the keycaps, still on the Tupperware containers. So what I'm doing here is I'm just making sure I get all that out for the next step. So after I fill that up, I drain it, and now I'm filling it up with water again for this next step. So I'm just making sure that all the keycaps are completely submerged here before I put the bleach in, and that's why I wanted to rinse it so thoroughly, because we didn't want any chemicals mixing with the other soap. And as you can see right here, I'm going right back to mixing them in the water. And right here, I'm gonna make sure I get rid of all of that laundry detergent residue on everything, because it's gonna be all over the Tupperware and all over the keycaps. Once that is done, we're doing the final rinse here. We're gonna try and use as little water as possible. We want it to just barely submerge all the keycaps. And now I'm gonna take some cologne. It could be any cologne, it could be cheap cologne if you want, just as long as it smells nice. And I'm just gonna put it in the water. As you can see, it does a cool little effect. Like all the other steps, once it's in the water, you're gonna wanna mix it. This step is different, however, because you're gonna wanna leave it for about 20-30 minutes, however long you want. Basically, it's gonna trap the smells inside of the keycaps, and you're gonna wanna put like a little towel over it. Basically, it's also gonna break down any extra dirt that's on those keycaps. While we wait for that, we can talk about the mousepad. The mousepad, I unfortunately cannot disconnect and clean. I've done it like 3 times before, but it's just getting too much of a hassle. I've used like 17 zip ties, just, re-zip tying it and unzip tying it and all that for cable management. So I decided to just use a vacuum and a sponge and try and clean up my desk. I didn't really record most of the small stuff, so here's a picture of underneath the monitor and the back of the monitor. Cleaned that out, got the dust all off that and everything. I also got underneath the desk with the vacuum, got that clean. So now I was ready to take the keycaps out of the little bath and put them on a paper towel, let them dry. Right here I'm putting them upside down so that the bottoms can air dry out. It's about 5 or 6 hours later, and as you can see, not a droplet of water in there. So as you could hear, the keycaps were dry, and I was ready to put them back on the keyboards. And so now to finish up, here are all the before and afters. I just woke up and realized I forgot to record this, but join the Discord. First 20 verified subs get a special role, get access to mod chats and all that, you know, all that jazz. Verify sub even if you don't get that role, but slots are running out. Make sure you get that shit quick. All right, adios.